10 a.m., January 15th, 1947. Betty Bersinger, a local housewife, was walking down Norton Avenue in Los Angeles. She saw something disturbing in an empty lot on the street. When she first saw the corpse, Bersinger said that the body was so white that at first she assumed it had to be a mannequin. It had been meticulously washed, possibly to destroy any evidence. Witnesses observed a black car approaching the parking lot around daybreak. However, there were no additional immediate leads. The LAPD sent the victim's fingerprints to the FBI, where they quickly identified the unknown woman as being 22-year-old Elizabeth Short, an aspiring actress in Hollywood, who had been known posthumously as the Black Dahlia. And while she was severely mutilated, there was no blood anywhere, suggesting that the body had been thoroughly cleaned before being positioned at that spot on Norton Avenue. Elizabeth Short was born in 1924 in Medford, Massachusetts. In 1943, she made the exciting move to California, inspired by her dreams of becoming a movie star. Unfortunately, life in Los Angeles proved to be quite challenging for her. While she occasionally worked as a waitress, she often faced unemployment and had to lean on her friends for support. During her time in California, Elizabeth moved around quite a bit, living in different places like Hollywood, Long Beach, and San Diego. Despite her aspirations, she found it tough to land even small acting roles. It's sad to note that at the time of her passing, she didn't have any film credits to her name. On January 9, 1947, Elizabeth Short was last seen at the Biltmore Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. Subsequently, reports indicated she might have also been at the Crown Grill Cocktail Lounge, located about half a mile from her last known sighting. Following her disappearance, her body was discovered 6 days later, on January 15th, raising questions about her activities during that period and the circumstances surrounding her murder. After identifying Elizabeth Short as the victim, law enforcement began to investigate her personal life. She was recognized as a well-behaved young woman who consistently communicated with her family, sending letters to her mother each week. However, media coverage surrounding her case took a sensational turn. Newspapers often painted a controversial picture of her life, suggesting she frequented jazz clubs and was involved with numerous men, which complicated the investigation into her death. The portrayal of Short by the media was highly negative, with some reports describing her as a seductive figure and even implying that she may have engaged in sex work, thereby framing her murder in a problematic light. Many fabricated details emerged during the investigation, including the sensationalist headline from the Los Angeles Times that characterized her murder as the act of a sex fiend, claiming she was butchered by a sex maniac in an orgy of torture. Friends, a quick reminder, if you want to keep diving into the chilling mystery of the Black Dahlia and enjoying the story on audio, then start your free trial on the Black Dahlia audiobook. Click the link in the description and pin comment. As a small channel, it will help us to grow, despite the lack of evidence to support such claims. The case quickly became known as the Black Dahlia murder and garnered extensive media attention, dominating front-page news in Los Angeles for an entire month. The combination of sensational reporting and the unanswered questions surrounding her death has kept the case in the public's consciousness even decades later. On January 24th, 9 days after the body was discovered, an envelope arrived at the offices of the LA Examiner. The envelope appeared to be from Short's killer and was addressed with cut-out letters taken from movie advertisements. Inside, it contained some of her belongings, including her social security card, birth certificate, photos, and an address book that was missing a few pages. All fingerprints had been wiped clean using gasoline. Additionally, another letter arrived stating, "Turning in Wednesday, January 29th. I had fun with the police, Black Dahlia Avenger." In total, 13 letters were sent to the police and the press, written by the murderer to taunt them as the investigation unfolded. Unfortunately, the arrival of these letters did not lead the police to the killer. The letter arrived with some of Elizabeth Short's belongings, leading investigators to believe that the so-called Black Dahlia Avenger was the murderer. However, who could this individual be? It was estimated that police questioned and Manley, a salesman and former army musician, first met Elizabeth when he spotted her on a street corner and offered her a ride. In the days leading up to Elizabeth's murder, she called Manley for help after her accommodations in San Diego fell through. Manley picked her up, and the two stayed together in a hotel in Pacific Beach. Eventually, he took Elizabeth to the Biltmore Hotel and left her there at 6:30 p.m. on January 9th. After Elizabeth's murder, the police located Manley and discovered he was married. He was taken in for questioning, where he maintained his innocence and willingly underwent 2 polygraph tests. After passing both tests, he was quickly released. Around this same time, another development occurred when a second suspect, Joseph Dumais, came forward and confessed to killing Elizabeth Short. Dumais, an army corporal, had gone on several dates with Short just before her murder. He claimed that he had been with her on January 9th or 10th in San Francisco, but had blacked out due to excessive drinking and could not remember the events of that night. He expressed doubt about his involvement, stating, "It's possible I could have committed that murder. To the best of my knowledge, I am still not positive." However, this confession led nowhere. Just a few days later, authorities at Fort Dix, New Jersey, established that Dumais had been on his military base by at least 3 p.m. on the day Short's body was found. This timeline ruled him out as a suspect, as he could not have returned from Los Angeles in time to have moved her body to the location where it was discovered. In addition to Robert Manley and Joseph Dumais, police questioned another 75 men whose names were listed in the address book sent to the examiner by the Black Dahlia Avenger. Unfortunately, no significant leads emerged from these inquiries. By February 1947, a month after the murders, public interest in the case began to wane, and the investigation lost momentum. Ultimately, the police found themselves at a dead end. In the mid-20th century, some police officers in the LAPD were notoriously corrupt. They accepted payoffs to dismiss cases, turned a blind eye to known criminals, and provided immunity to various influential individuals. Gambling, prostitution rings, and drug trafficking, all to maintain their operations. Studying to be a surgeon, he ran a venereal disease clinic and had a vast social network that included influential figures such as Man Ray and director John Huston. Notably, Hodel was known for hosting mysterious parties at his home in Los Feliz, the iconic Southern house designed by Lloyd Wright. These gatherings often sparked rumors of sex, drug use, and other more sinister activities, details of which will be explored later. Despite his prominence, in belief that his father had a romantic relationship with Elizabeth that ended tragically in her death, Steve Hodel uncovered sex found. Perhaps most disturbingly, the way Elizabeth's body was placed resembled the works of Man Ray, particularly the photograph Minotaur, where the subject's arms are posed above the head. Steve believes his father aspires to be an artist like Man Ray, but chooses to express himself through murder instead. The evidence Steve uncovered was so compelling that some law enforcement officials considered the possibility that the case may finally have been solved. Stephen Kay, a former LA County head deputy district attorney who prosecuted murder cases for over 35 years, stated he would have no hesitations about charging Hodel with murder. In response to these new allegations, Times reporter Steve Lopez reopened the case files from the time of the murder. He was surprised transcripts revealed George Hodel saying, "Supposing I believe that George Hodel was the murderer." Thad Brown, the chief of detectives and lead investigator in the disappearance of Jean Spangler, reportedly stated, "We know who killed the Black Dahlia. The case was solved. It was a doctor in Hollywood who lived on Franklin Avenue." Los Angeles police officers. Given his corruption within the LAPD, Hodel came under suspicion for a heinous crime. In 1945, he was first implicated in the murder of his secretary. Steve also noted that in 1949, Hodel was arrested on charges of incest, a claim that he and other family members denied. Ultimately, George Hodel was acquitted of the charges and fled to the Philippines in 1950. In 2012, Steve Hodel returned to the Southern house accompanied by a search dog. Hodel believes that the remains may be found near the lot due to the distribution of several murders at the Southern house, including the murder of the Black Dahlia. However, he has not yet obtained permission to fully excavate the property. Many people think that the Black Dahlia case. However, the LAPD admits that many pieces of physical evidence from the Black Dahlia investigation are missing, and it's unclear where they went or why. The media who might have turned to sex work to survive, which seemed to excuse the murderer's terrible actions. In reality, Elizabeth Short was an innocent victim of a brutal murder involved, but we might never find out the truth.